This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
Hey, all my feline friends, this is Michelle Fern, your host on Cattitude. Now, how do you go from elephants to cats and kitties, do some amazing good along the way, and have a business called Crumbs and Whiskers? Stay tuned. I'm going to tell you all about it with my wonderful, fabulous next guest. We'll be right back. Hi, it's me again, Michelle Fern, host of Cattitude. You know what I love? My cats. I love how Dennis comes and taps me whenever he wants a treat. You know what I don't love? Cleaning up Dennis's litter box, which is why Arm & Hammer created new cloud control litter. There's no cloud of nasties when I scoop. It is 100% dust-free, free of heavy perfumes, and helps reduce airborne dander from scooping. So, what happens in the litter box stays in the litter box. New Cloud Control Cat Litter by Arm & Hammer. More power to you.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back, everyone. I'd like to introduce Kanchan Singh, who is just an amazing, wonderful person. I read her bio. I'm so excited to have her on Cattitude, who is the founder and CEO of Crumbs and Whiskers. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so I told everybody a little bit about Crumbs and Whiskers, and I want you to please share with everyone how you came into putting Crumbs and Whiskers together. But first of all, what is Crumbs and Whiskers?
Yeah, so Crumbs and Whiskers, we're a cat cafe and kitten lounge. What that means is at our cat cafes and our kitten lounge, we have a space where you can drink coffee, eat various types of treats. They're different in each location, and play with cats and kittens. And all of our cats and kittens are rescued from risk of euthanasia at shelters. And, you know, they're at risk of euthanasia for no reason other than the shelter is running out of space. That's really it. They're perfectly healthy animals. And so what we do is we pull them from those shelters and we keep them at the cat cafe. And if you are drinking coffee and you fall in love with a cat or a kitten, you can take them home. And right now we have one location in Los Angeles and 2 locations in Washington, D.C.
Well, that's fabulous. And I just think you should have a location in, every major city in the U.S., maybe North America, Canada, and, it's such a great idea. And I know that they're popular in the only other countries I've really heard about them are in Asia.
Mm-hmm. They're very popular in Japan, but, Japan's always ahead of us.
Of course.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And it's... I've sort of experienced something like that when I was a guest of a large company and they had a little, how animals help you feel better kind of a thing. Better with pets was I think their slogan. And they had dogs in one area and cats in another. And they were just, just roaming around, and they were from a rescue. And so I had just a taste of what that would be like. And it's just a phenomenal way to, connect with a kitty or a cat and just make that connection and decide, hey, this is the one for me.
Yeah. And even if you don't adopt, it's such a healing experience just to be with animals, with cats, with kittens. There's something about it that just completely changes how your day is going or how your week's been or how your year's been, depending on what's going on for you.
You're so right, because one of my happy places is one of the local shelters, and you can buy little biscuits or treats and then just give it to them. And some people might say it's depressing, but, I look at it as hopeful. They're rescued versus on the street, and they're looking for their forever home. But before we get too much into that, how did this Crumbs and Whiskers come to be?
So it's an interesting story. I was in a corporate job and I was 23 years old and I hated my job. And every morning I woke up and I just felt empty, like this hollow, empty, numb feeling about going to work. And so I decided to travel for a little bit. Travel has always been my escape. It's been the way I clear my head. And I decided to go to an elephant sanctuary in Thailand and just volunteer there for a little bit. And while I was in that elephant sanctuary in Thailand, I was happy again. And I realized that whatever I did with my life, it needed to be with animals. And so I'm in this elephant sanctuary and I'm thinking about, okay, how can I go home and make a life out of helping animals and being with animals? And honestly, I didn't have the answer. And my trip was at the end. So it was my last day in Thailand. And two guys that I had met in a hostel who had seen me feed every stray dog and cat in sight took me to a cat cafe because it happened to be my 24th birthday that day. And I remember walking into the cat cafe and it was like I walked into the answer of the question that I had been asking myself that whole trip. Like it was like I was inside the answer. And so when I went into that cat cafe, it hit me like a brick wall that this was it. And on the flight back home, I didn't even have a notebook. It was just United napkins. I just drew out the entire business model. Like the air hostesses were like, what is this girl doing? But I had like a stack. And by the time I landed, I knew I was quitting my job and starting this company.
Wow. That's kind of like the universe speaking to you, and saying, this is what you need.
Yeah. So it was a pretty surreal, amazing experience of how I came across the idea and how quickly I knew that this was it.
Now, do you have cats yourself?
I have one cat and everyone's always very surprised that there aren't more. But I do have one cat and her name is Luna.
Oh, that's pretty. Sometimes one is enough. I have a zoo of 3 indoor, 2 outdoor. And I was just thinking about this. I was thinking, about our interview and I thought, how did I meet all my cats? And they literally walked in the door pretty much or were at my doorstep, They're all rescues. The 2 outdoor ones are actually more like community cats, and one could be set indoor, but I can't separate them because they're kind of like husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend kind of a pair. Mm-hmm. So they're, but there's not a lot of people that will just open their door and say, here we go, which is why the shelters are so overflowing. And I was talking to someone recently and they said, do you know what the biggest killer is of cats? I go, what? We were talking about death things and all kinds of things. They said euthanasia. That's the biggest killer. Yeah. And every little,
it's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking. It's horrible. And, every little step people take, whether it's getting a shelter animal, a cat on the street captured and fixed, or in much a larger extent, what you're doing with Crumbs and Whiskers helps immensely.
Yeah, and that's part of why we made the conscious decision to work with rescues that go to kill shelters specifically and pull cats that are at risk of euthanasia specifically, because to your point, they're perfectly healthy cats. There's no reason for them to die. There's no reason for those cats not to be in good, loving homes. And that's part of why that's such a central component to our business model.
So tell me how it works. So if I'm in, D.C. or Los Angeles and I decide how do I just come in the door, hang out with the cats, make an appointment? How does it work?
Yeah, so we are reservation based because we limit the number of people that we allow in at once for the health of our cats. And so your process would be to go to www.crumbsandwhiskers.com. That's our website, and actually book a time slot. And we work based on time slots. We have 70-minute experiences with the cats. And so you would just pick a 70-minute time that you wanted to come in, and you would reserve that. And then when you come to the store, you can order your coffee, you can order your cookies, and you can play with the cats, of course.
And then what would be the process if I decided to adopt? Would I just take, that cat home right then and there?
No, we are. When we were building this business, we knew that there would be some impulse buys of cats, which, I've worked in shelters for over 10 years in my teens. And I knew that anytime somebody impulse got an animal, almost always that animal would be returned after like reality sank in for them. So the way it works for us is, let's say you fall in love with a cat, you'll submit an online application to our partner rescue. And then our partner rescue makes sure that you and the cat are actually good fit for each other, as well as you are going to have humane practices for your cat. So for example, you're not going to declaw them is one of them. And once they make sure they clear you, that's when you pay an adoption fee, and then you come back to us and you pick up your cat. So there is usually like a week or 2 week lead time in between.
In hearing how the process works, I think I got goosebumps like 3 times. First that it's not impulse related, because that's so true. A lot of times that's why, pets as gifts are that's been the topic of so many different shows. We have 75 plus shows on Pet Life Radio, and that's been the topic, I know, for a lot of the vet shows and other shows, because their impulse is not good. People have to sink in. That's why so many cats are in shelters, because there's a lot that have been gifted and returned, and they don't know what to do, so they just bring them someplace, or just worse, just leave them out in the street somewhere. And then I love that you make sure that the people are going to have humane practices. Yeah, declawing is just no good.
Anytime somebody says they're going to declaw, that's automatically they're not going to be able to adopt from us.
Nobody likes to be scratched by a cat, but declawing is, some people think it's just like, it's just like cutting their nails. Nope, it's like breaking their finger.
Yeah,
for humans, that's kind of what it's like. It's no good like that. So what if I decided on a certain cat, and then how would is it like held? Does it have like a pending little thing on its collar or something? So I make sure I get that cat. How is the process
That's a great question. We put little hearts on their collars for the ones that have already been spoken for, or the ones that are, about to be adopted, so that you don't fall too hard and then get your heart broken.
That's great. Now, where in the Washington, D.C. are the 2 locations, and where in Los Angeles is the location?
Yeah, so both of our Washington, D.C. locations are in Georgetown. They're actually just 5 minutes from each other, but one of them is the Kitten Lounge, and it's dedicated to helping kittens during kitten season. And the other one is the Cat Café, and that's dedicated to helping adult cats. And in LA, our location is in West Hollywood on Melrose.
Okay, and I used to live in Los Angeles, so I know the area, and that's a great location. So tell us a little about the Kitten Lounge, as far as, can people still adopt from the Kitten Lounge, and how does that work?
The Kitten Lounge is essentially the same concept as the Cat Cafe, just with kittens. So every year during kitten season, shelters see an influx of kittens, and often a lot of kittens have to be euthanized. And so when we heard about that, we thought, how great would it be? And you can't really mix kittens and cats, because kittens have much weaker immune systems than cats do. So it's not like our cat cafes can start taking kittens. And so we thought, how cool would it be if we opened another location that was just kittens? And so the Kitten Lounge is a place where you eat cookie dough, you drink coffee, and you are surrounded by 30 kittens. It's very magical. It's very amazing.
Wow. I'm hearing him like, I'd love to be surrounded by 30 kittens, So are you said during kitten season, is it only open for certain times during I think kitten season is like April through October, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. Wow. You nailed it. No, you're exactly right. Yes. So it's open right now, and it's open until the end of October. And we're actually bringing the Kitten Lounge to Los Angeles as well. And our Cat Cafe here will be actually turning into the Kitten Lounge in June. And it will be the Kitten Lounge until October. And it'll just be filled with kittens who are all up for adoption.
Okay, so you're going to it'll be Kitten Lounge, and then it'll turn back to Cat Cafe after October.
Exactly. After kitten season ends, yeah.
Okay, that makes great sense. And do you ever have people that, especially since, with the locations in Washington, want to adopt a kitten, but then, after are there people there at the Kitten Lounge where they can talk about, what goes into, if they've never had a cat or a kitten, but they've thought about it, what goes into, being pet parent and all of that. So they really have an idea of what to expect.
Yeah. So every single person in our store, first of all, already has pets of their own, but they also know a lot about cat care. And so one of the things we do is we always talk to first-time adopters about what to expect, and not just what to expect, but like what kind of time commitment is this going to be? What kind of work are you going to have to put in, just so they can understand the full picture before adopting, and then once they've adopted, they can take the best care of their pet possible.
Okay, we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back I have a few more questions for you, and then how can people that live in other places get involved with Crumbs and Whiskers? We're going to be right back. Molly, here's your dinner. Zeus, that's not your food.
Don't let that happen to your precious cat. Elevate your cat's eating experience with the Cat Tree Tray. The Cat Tree Tray keeps your cat's food off the floor and conveniently located on the cat tree. It's the perfect way to eat. It's a beautiful wrought iron tray that easily attaches to your cat tree and keeps dogs and other critters out of your cat's dish. A must for multi-pet households. There's a 6-inch tray for large bowls and a 4-inch tray for smaller bowls. Purchase your Cat Tree Tray today. Go right now to cattreetray.com. That's cattreetray.com. CATTREETRAY.com.
Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. I'm talking with Kanchan Singh, and she is the CEO and founder of Crumbs and Whiskers. And she has a Kitten Lounge and Cat Café in D.C. and Los Angeles. And what are your plans for the future? I mean, when are we going to have one in, all over the place? New York, Chicago, Miami, everywhere. We need one in every city. This is such a great idea.
Thank you. We do plan on expanding. At the moment, we're looking somewhere on the East Coast, maybe New York, maybe Boston. We're not sure yet for next year. And we're looking potentially abroad as well in the years after. So with live animals and having a business that has live animals, I've been very cognizant of slow growth and even building it up slowly, because if something breaks in our systems, that's lives that are at stake. So we are sort of going on a slower growth path, but we are planning on growing to more locations on the East Coast as well as potentially abroad.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. And, slow's always the best way. I mean, for any business, because when you grow and you're just jumping from one to another and zooming, things tend to crumble. It just doesn't make sense. It's not. So that's really smart. So there's a lot of people listening to Cattitude, and they're from all over the world, and they're probably thinking, well, geez, I'm in Paris, or I'm in Canada, or even if they're in, Oregon, and I'm nowhere near Los Angeles and D.C., but I'd love to somehow get involved and who knows, maybe visit one of those cities at one point. How can people listening get involved and, kind of see what you have going on? And maybe you might get some emails saying, hey, come to my city now. We need you now. How can they get involved?
Yeah, that's a great question. So definitely by following us on social. So we are at Crumbs_Whiskers on Instagram. That's our main platform. And, the more support we can get, then when we do fundraising campaigns for animals in need, then they're in the loop, right? By signing up on our newsletter on the website, because yes, we have physical locations, but we do fundraising efforts, volunteer efforts, different efforts to help out cats in need, actually all over the world. world pretty often. And so that's something they can get involved with. And just telling all their friends, especially their friends in DC and Los Angeles, telling them to come check it out. And as you said, putting it on their bucket list for when they do visit LA or DC.
Well, that's a great idea. And then I'm sure everybody's wondering, how many cats have you saved so far? And I know it's smaller because you are doing things, people come, they have a time period. It's not common. Let's just give out cats and kittens here and there. So I'm not expecting to hear a number in the thousands. But how many cats would you say you've saved so far?
So we've actually saved over 2,000 cats from euthanasia. Yeah, and we are almost at our 1,000th adoption. So how we do it is for every cat that we get adopted, we're able to save one more because we're creating room for them in the shelter. So we're at over 2,000 cats saved from euthanasia and almost 1,000 adopted.
Wow, I didn't expect a number that high because how long have you guys have been open in D.C. and in the Washington area and in Los Angeles?
We've been open for about 4 years in D.C. and 2 years in L.A. And the Kitten Lounge just for a few months in D.C., 2 months actually.
Well, that's really fabulous that you were able to save so many, cats and kittens from a short life, and it just shows that how much you're giving back for all you're doing for these loved animals that need to find their forever homes. Yeah. So wonderful of you and your staff for just doing this great thing.
Thank you.
Kanchan, thank you so much for coming on Cattitude and telling us all about Crumbs and Whiskers. I wish you so much success. The next time we talk, I'm going to be so excited to hear that you're now in, 40 locations all over the world or something. I could just see it happening. But thank you so much. And thank you for all you do for saving so many lives of kittens and cats. That's so wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely talking to you.
Oh, I'm just so enamored by all you do. So, again, for all the pet parents listening and for all the kittens that can just say meow and cats that can say meow, thank you for all you're doing. It's just beyond words.
Thank you.
That was just such a wonderful show. I've heard about cat cafes and all of that, but haven't heard very much of any in the U.S. And I think what Kanchan and her staff is doing at Crumbs and Whiskers is amazing and so wonderful to have spoken with her. I want to thank Mark Winter for making me and my guests sound wonderful. Thanks to my cat crew that found me, Dennis, Molly, Charlotte, and the outside duo, which is Sammy and Jethro. And thank you, fur babies, for teaching me how wonderful it is to have cats in your life. And thanks also to everyone that's listening and always giving us such great ideas for, new shows and great feedback. Please be sure to check out crumbsandwhiskers.com. There's some great pictures and great information. And keep listening. We have so many great shows coming up. To see pictures of my crew and just, cats and this and that, be sure to check out our Instagram. It's at Cattitude17. And keep listening. So many more great shows coming up.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.